What's up everybody, Executives here, coming at you with the Retribution Paladin complete TBC PvP guide. In this guide I'll be covering every aspect of PvP, from Battlegrounds to World PvP to Duels, most importantly Arena. I'll also be covering the new spells Ret got in TBC, as well as good 3v3 comps that it synergizes with, as well as what to do against each class. I'll be showing duels and giving some verbal tips and tricks for what to do against each class. There'll also be timestamps as a pinned comment, so if you guys need to skip around anywhere in this video, look for that comment. But first, I'll start off with new spells that Ret received in TBC. Now, Ret Paladin has probably gotten the biggest benefit out of any class I've seen in TBC so far for new spells that just make the class so much more fun and does so much more damage. So, if you guys are playing a classic Retribution Paladin or had one as an alt or something and thought they were boring or lacked in damage, they are phenomenal in TBC. They are a ton of fun to play, especially paired with a Shaman with Windfury totem, and they do insane damage. So first off, I'll show you guys some of the new spells. So here I am a Blood Elf Ret Paladin. Now, unfortunately, in TBC Classic, you cannot boost a Blood Elf or a Draenei, so you'll have to level these manually from 1 to 70. So I'll cover the racials that Blood Elf got, but all of the Pally racials are both faction-wide now. So Mana Tap is one of Blood Elf's racials. It's really strong, especially for Pally, because it allows you to get in combat at a 30-yard range at an instant cast. So let's say you're fighting Rogue Druid or something and the Druid's out still putting hots up, you're allowed to quickly get out a Mana Tap on him. That puts you in combat. You're not allowed to get sapped from the Rogue. Granted, you do have Blessing of Sacrifice, which generally breaks sap, but anyways, Mana Tap is really strong, especially for Ret Pally, because if you can get 3 stacks of this up and then Arcane Torrent, you'll gain a ton of mana back, so it's very beneficial. This Arcane Torrent is a 2-second blanket silence, very strong. It does not DR with anything. I'm pretty sure it is on its separate diminishing return. If I'm wrong about that, then it's on the same DR as Counterspell, as Blanket, Shadow Priest Silence, etc. Ret Paladin has got my favorite spell in the game, Wings. Avenging Wrath increases all damage caused by 30% for 20 seconds. It is an insane button to press. Unfortunately, pressing this button does put forbearance on you, making you not allowed to pop or bubble or anything like that. So there is a downside to it, makes you a potential kill target, but realistically, if you pop this button, the target's going to die. So if you save Wings with the target has no Trinket and your Shaman's got Windfury totem down and you've got Hodge on cooldown, you can Hodge that target, pop a Wings, and kill him in a Hodge 100 to 0, no problem. Avenging Wrath is phenomenal. It's so good in TBC and the rest of the expansions. Now the new spell you got Crusader Aura. This is a mount speed aura, kind of cool. Next you got Crusader Strike, as we'll cover in the talent tree. We spec'd into Crusader Strike. It's basically another button to press. It is the best button you can press besides obviously Judgment. So every 6 seconds I'm always spamming Crusader Strike because it has that chance to proc an extra attack from Seal of Command as well. So very strong. Outside of that, nothing much new. I'll cover some new seals though. So you have Seal of Blood. This is both for Alliance and Horde. What Seal of Blood is if you guys are already familiar with Seal of Command has a chance to basically deal an additional attack for 70% of your weapon damage. So it's kind of like Sword Spec in a sense. So when you use your Seal of Command on a target, so you put Seal of Command up and then you Judgment that target, if they're not in a stun or in a incapacitate effect, it doesn't do that much damage. But if they're in a stun or an incap, it doubles the damage. So the best way I like to explain Seal of Blood is basically Seal of Command, just not in a Hodge or a stun. So if you're a really good Ret Pally and you have the mana to constantly switch back and forth for Judgments to put out Seals of Bloods, it's very good. So I would demonstrate an example. If you're chasing a Druid around the map and the Druid, you don't have a rep, you don't have a Hodge or anything on cooldown or off of cooldown, and you're just trying to do damage to that target. you're running around with Seal of Command on yourself all the time for your auto attacks, but for your judgments, you'll switch to Seal of Blood, you'll get that judgment out, and then you'll switch back to Seal of Command and continue auto attacking the Druid. So Seal of Blood is really good if you can't get the target in a stun or a rep with Seal of Command, if that makes sense. Another new spell that we got is something called Seal of Vengeance. Now, Seal of Vengeance is a dot that the Paladin is allowed to put on the target. So you don't spend your judgment into it, but when you auto attack with this judgment on you, when you auto attack with this seal on you, you have a chance to put a dot on the target. So sometimes I like to use this against rogues. It'll be very nice. I put up a Seal of Vengeance on them, auto attack them a few times, see that the dot's on them, so then I switch back to Seal of Command. At the end of the day, I don't really find myself using it that much, but it is very helpful sometimes. Like maybe a Druid's trying to get a re-stealth drink or something, or whatever the case may be. Next off, I'll show you guys my talents. First, I'll just show you my spec. 41 points in the red tree, 20 points in the prot tree, and nothing in the holy tree. I'll try and give a little bit more detail. Points all the way down into improved Hammer of Justice. I also have improved Righteous Fury, which is very strong. While Righteous Fury is active, you take 6% reduced damage, so that's phenomenal. I'm going to keep Righteous Fury up every single time I can in PvP. 30-minute buff, very nice. Then in the red tree, I've got points all the way down into Vindication. Very good here. Reduces the target's attributes by 15% for 15 seconds. This is good. This is everything from Intellect to Stamina to Agi or whatever the case may be. I don't take Eye for an Eye. I've kind of been playing around with this. I still think it's a really good talent. Basically, if a mage, like a fire mage or a destro warlock, crits you, they take 30% of the damage that they did to you with that crit. So it's really good passive damage. You're just constantly reflecting, but this does nothing against dots. This does nothing against if the spell doesn't crit. So I think that you get more benefit out of Vindication than you would Eye for an Eye, but still very good. Then I've got improved Sanctity Aura, so I'm always having Sanctity Aura up. To a weapon specialization. Points into Vengeance. Vengeance is phenomenal. You want to try, as a rep pally, as a good rep pally, you want to try and keep up Vengeance. 100% uptime on Vengeance. So it's very, very good. And then I've also got Sanctified Seals. Reduces the chance for my seals to be dispelled by 66%. Very nice. In addition to that, increases my chance to critically hit with everything by 2%. And then points in Repentance and into Crusader Strike. Very kind of standard Rep Pally build. Alright, next up I'll cover my gear. Gear for Rep Paladin is very similar to Arms Warrior. You're basically running the exact same gear unless it's a PvP set or a PvE set, but outside of that the off pieces are very similar. If this is the start of TBC and you guys are still kind of unsure of what gear to get as a Rep Pally, you can come to this website 70upgrades.com and you can do an autofill on your gear for whatever phase you want. So for phase 1, I had them autofill some of this gear, and it's really good. Lets me know what I should shoot for and what dungeons or raids I should try and go for. But apart from that, the main stats you want to stack as a Rep Pally are Strength and Stamina for the most part. You don't want to worry too much about Intellect. Intellect is really good for increased mana pool or for that increased spell critical strike, but at the end of the day you want to stack Strength or Attack Power. 1 Strength equals 2 Attack Power. The more you have of that at the end of the day, the harder your Crusader Strike's going to hit, the more damage you're going to do. So if you're in a PvP season, the best PvP gear will be whatever season you're in. So if you're in PvP season 1 and you can get your rating high enough, I would just buy the 5 set of the PvP season. You want to try and stack at least 5% hit. I don't quite have enough hit on this character, but I'm not taking it too seriously. I'd probably re-gem here. I'd re-gem some of these strength gems. I think there's hit and strength gems. Let's look at this thing. Yeah, there's 5 strength, 4 hit ratings, so I'd put some of those gems in here. It's also important you want to make sure you have a slow two-hander. So anything with a speed of 3.6, 3.7, 3.8 is really good for Rep Pally. You don't really want to try and go below or faster than a 3.6 two-hander. It doesn't matter which weapon you have, whether it's a two-handed axe or a polearm or a two-handed sword, it's all the same thing. I'm also running a Libram of Divine Judgment. This is a phenomenal Libram. It's really good for PvE and PvP, just all around really good for Ret Pal. It gives you 200 attack power for 10 seconds if you use Judgment at command. So, very nice. I also run an on-use PvP trinket, as I do with most of my melee classes. If you have that burst go, or that first burst go, you're allowed to basically pop this instead of using wings or something, and then you've got a second cooldown for later on. So I like to run in right at the start of the game, get up a nice Seal of Crusader. I'll cover rotation in a little bit, and then I'll get a full Hodge out, pop my on-use trinket, get up a Seal Command, and try and force out a trinket, or try and force out some sort of defensive cooldown, so then I can go on them with a real go with wings in another minute once Hodge is off cooldown or something. I'll cover some of my macros. Pretty standard macros. I have a macro to switch to one-hander and a shield. Nothing special to switch back to a two-hander, but just one-hander. Shields just /EQ or /equip, and then the items. I also have full target party 1 and target party 2 macros for my defensive cooldowns for my teammates. So this macro here, it'll /cast target equals party 1 and then bop them. And so this allows me, if I'm attacking a target, I can press this macro and it won't deselect the target that I'm attacking. Same thing I have for Freedom, and same thing I have for Cleanse, same thing I have for Blessing of Sacrifice. So any buff that you guys put on your teammates, you're going to want to make a macro and get used to being able to know which party 1 or party 2 that you're going to put that buff on. So yeah, I duplicate these macros for party 1 and party 2 if I was playing 3s. I also have a Focus Hodge macro and a Focus Rep macro. So if I've got a focus target and I'm attacking a different target, I can press this macro and it will put the off target in Repentance or Hodge. This is really good for swaps. Let's say I'm fighting Rogue Druid or Mage Druid or something, and the Druid's pretty close over here. I can go focus target Hodge him and then switch to him without targeting him, so he might not necessarily expect the damage coming. And then I can get a Blood Elf Silence so he can't bark skin or something along those lines. I'll cover some tips and tricks later. So I'll give some individual PvP tips, and then after this I'll cover what to do against specific classes, and I'll show duels and give verbal tips. But first off, I'd like to start with Sanctity Aura. Sanctity Aura is really good for Ret Pal. It basically increases your holy damage by 10%, but what makes a really good Ret Pally good is switching his Rs. So I have a shift and then scroll wheel macro, or not macro, but keybind to switch to my second action page, which then mimics my aura bar here. So this allows me to switch to, let's say, if I'm fighting a warrior and he's about to get the charge off, I'm going to switch to a Dev Aura, switch to one-hander and a shield, and this way now I've got 18,000 armor and I've reduced physical damage taken by 63%. So if I had Sanctity Aura on, it'd only be 62, but hey, a percent's pretty good. But really key important thing is Concentration Aura. If you guys are playing 3s or if you guys are playing 2s and you have a rogue or a warrior training your healer, you're probably going to want to throw Concentration Aura on for your healer, because this allows them, when they cast, let's say they're casting and they're trying to fake, or if they already got the kick out of the way and they're just trying to heal you, this allows it to have a 35% chance for their cast to not be delayed by auto attack damage or any damage from the target that's on them. Another thing, Shadow Resist or any of the Resist Auras are really good against fighting that specific school. So let's say I'm going up against an SL lock, yeah, I'll put up a Shadow Resist Aura for my whole team and I'll leave it up the whole game. So then we've got a little bit extra Shadow Resist. We might resist a Fear, who knows, we might get lucky, resist an Agony. Same thing for Frost Resist Aura. I like to keep this up against mages, but if you're just looking for damage or you want to get as much damage as possible, Sanctity Aura is probably the best bet. Some other tips and tricks. I mentioned it earlier. Seal of Blood if your target is not in a Repentance or in a Hodge. This will really kind of separate you from other rep pallies, is if you're Seal of Blood and dumping your Judgment and then switching back to Seal of Command and then consuming your auto attacks if the target's not in a rep or a Hodge. This kind of mainly applies to PvE, but yeah. I'll be talking a lot about Seal of Justice in the Druid video, but I'll just kind of give a brief overview now. Seal of Justice is rep pally slow, in a sense. It is your only thing that you can do to make the target not run faster. So if you put up a Seal of Justice on the target, they cannot be feared, keep that in mind, but they cannot go above 100% movement speed. So as a rep pally, if you're running a boot enchant, that sure-footed that allows you, get that minor run speed of 3% extra, and they cannot drop below 100%, so you're running at 103% speed if you've got a freedom on yourself or something, so you can't be slowed, and they've got a Seal of Justice on them. You can actually keep uptime on a Druid, on a Mage, whatever the target is, on a Rogue. It's super, super, super helpful, and a lot of rep paladins don't use it, especially in Classic. This is a phenomenal seal. Now, you don't use it for damage. You literally, at the start of a fight, you run in, Seal of Justice, then you Judgment, and then you switch to Seal of Command, and then you never touch Seal of Justice again for the rest of the game unless it falls off or unless you want to put up a Seal of Crusader. But Seal of Justice is really good against Rogues, Druids, not really good against Warriors, not really good against Mages, but Rogues, Druids, anything that has a speed increase or some way to get away from you. Another kind of tip is every time you put up a defensive cooldown on a teammate, whether it's Blessing of Sacrifice or Blessing of Protection, it'll remove whatever buff that you put on them. So if you put up a Seal of Kings on the target and then you bop them, bop is going to remove Seal of Kings. So a really good rep pally will refresh that Seal of Kings or Seal of Might, or if you have the mana buff, Blessing of Wisdom, they will refresh that once the defensive cooldown is over. So if I've got Sack on a target and Sack's about to fall off, or they dispelled it and I've still got it on cooldown, I might put up a Blessing of Kings really quick on the target. Now, it is kind of a lot of mana, so you don't want to be buffing the whole game. Also, it is a global, but it is kind of helpful, especially if you're fighting against a team that has no dispel, like Warrior Druid. If you're fighting against Warrior Druid and you just bopped your Disc Priest, I would throw up that Blessing of Wisdom the second that bop is over. The last kind of two things I'll cover, but they'll also be covered in more detail in the duel video, is Exorcism, which is really good against Warlock pets, and then a rank 1 Consecration, which is really good against Rogues or any stealth class Druid or anything like that, or even in TBC, Mages, because they have Invis. So I would put a rank 1 Consecration on your bars, and I would also keybind a max rank Exorcism to hit Warlock pets with. Just extra damage, very helpful. Now I'll cover your rotation / burst damage, just / how to play rep pally. Now, if you guys are coming from retail and have no idea how rep pally works, I'll just give a super quick overview before I explain how to burst and what to do as a rep pally for rotation. So the biggest thing that you should take away from this guide are seals. So seals allow you to Judgment, and seals also allow you to do auto attacks. So there's two different benefits from each seal. So let's start off with Seal of Crusader. Fills the Paladin with the Spirit of Crusader for 30 seconds, granting 494 melee attack power. The Paladin also attacks 40% faster, but deals less damage with each attack. So that is the auto attack aspect of that seal. The Judgment aspect of this seal is unleashing the seal's energy will judge an enemy for 20 seconds, increasing holy damage taken up to 219. Your melee strikes will refresh the spell's duration. Only one Judgment per Paladin can be active at any one time. So what this means is, if I leave this seal up and I go and I run and start auto attacking this target, I have increased attack power. I'm going to be attacking faster, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be hitting harder. So what I would do is I like to use Seal of the Crusader for the Judgment aspect of it, because it increases that holy damage. So Why that's important is because when you switch to your Seal of Command and you Judgment in a stunned target, that's holy damage. So you want to be able to increase that for more burst potential. And I'll cover that in a little bit. So next thing I'll cover is Seal of Command. This is the most important seal you have besides Seal of Blood. Seal of Command gives a paladin a chance to deal additional holy damage equal to 70% of normal weapon damage. What this means is sword spec. You basically have sword spec as a ret paladin. You don't necessarily auto attack twice, but you'll auto attack once, and then you'll deal your weapon damage in holy damage to that target. So you hit twice, and it's very good if you can get this to proc. The other aspect of this seal is the judgment aspect, which is unleashing the seal's energy will damage them from X to X, but it's doubled if the target is stunned or incapacitated. So incapacitated means both your repentance, or stunned means your hodge. That also is a gouge. That also is a kidney shot. You know, it doesn't have to be a ret paladin specific spell. It's just if that target is in any of those two schools of CC. So incapacitated effect is something like a gouge, a repentance. I don't know if chastise is incap, but yeah, something along those lines. And then obviously a stun, a mighty bash, a hodge, a warrior intercept, a kidney shot, anything along those lines. So with all this being said, what this means is at the start of the fight, you're going to want to get up a Seal Crusader Judgment on the target, and then you're going to want to switch to your Seal of Command, and that's when you're going to do your Burst Go with a hodge. So I'll show you guys slowly what I'm going to do for my Burst Go, and then I'll actually do it. So I'll put up a Seal of Crusader, run up Judgment to the target, switch to a Seal of Command instantly, and then now I'm ready for my Burst Go, because that target's got Judgment of the Crusader up. Every time I auto attack, it will refresh that Judgment, and I've already got Seal of Command up, and as well as Vengeance, 3 Vengeance stacks up. I am ready to go. So my Burst Go with this target already on here is I'm going to hodge, then I'm going to pop my wings, I'm going to pop my PvP on use Trinket, I'm going to Judgment, and then I'm going to refresh Seal of Command as well as Crusader Strike. So keep in mind that Judgment is not on global cooldown. This means when I cast a spell like Freedom, I am still able to cast Judgment at any time during that 1.5 second global cooldown window. In addition, so is Avenging Wrath. So you can Avenging Wrath, Judgment, and switch into a new seal, or Crusader Strike, like all at the same time. So if you get very quick at it, you can do a ton of damage. In addition to that, you don't necessarily need to have the target hodged right away. What I like to do, and what separates me, I like to say, from other rep pallies, is I'll put the target in a rep, and then I will use my Judgment and then hodge immediately after. So this is what that looks like. I'm going to put up a Seal of Crusader, Judgment the target, switch to a Seal of Command, then I'm going to put up a rep on the target. Now this target's repped, he's ready for that double damage. I'm going to pop my wings once I'm ready from Judgment to go. Judgment into a hodge, Crusader Strike. I forgot to pop my unused Trinket, and then I switch to a Seal Command, and you can just see the insane amount of damage. Look at this damage coming out right now. 3,500 crits. Oh my goodness. Absolutely insane. And then if the target's low, I can give him a good old execute. Very, very insane damage from Rep Pally. So I'll cover that one more time. So we're going to open up with the Seal of Crusader on the target. Then I'm going to rebuff myself with Seal of Command. Once my Judgment's off cooldown, I'm going to go ahead and put a Repentance in the target. I want to pop my wings plus my PvP Trinket. I'm going to dump a Judgment. Immediately after that, I'm going to hodge. I'm going to rebuff myself with Seal of Command, and then I'm going to Crusader Strike. So, rep, Judgment into a hodge, Crusader Strike, rebuff myself with this. Nice big damage coming out. Might even be more beneficial to rebuff yourself with Seal of Command before hitting Crusader Strike, but it's whatever your opinion is. And if the target's low health, dump that execute into them. Always be spamming Crusader Strike when it's off cooldown. And then if you're in between goes, I have no more stuns or anything, I'm going to go ahead and switch to a Seal of Blood, get that judgment damage out, and then switch back to a Seal of Command. I'm going to give you guys some tips on what to do against each class. Now obviously it varies what aspect of PvP you're doing, whether it's duels or arenas or battlegrounds. I'm mainly going to be giving tips for arenas, but they do apply in all aspects of PvP. So let's start off with Rogue. Some key tips against Rogue: one-hander and a shield helps a ton. That's going to increase your armor. It's going to allow you to take a lot less damage against the Rogue. I have 61% reduced damage, 62% with one-hander and a shield out. And then the other tip is Devotion Aura. Devotion Aura is pretty good against Rogue. It increases your armor additionally. Very nice. Also, rank 1 Consecration. Very key that you're constantly dropping this down. It hardly costs any mana, 120 mana. It's on an 8-second cooldown, so every 8 seconds you're spamming Consecration. Rank 1, because this will break the Rogue's stealth, break his vanish, and always will keep you in combat. Another tip against Rogues: Blessing of Sacrifice. Unless it's Rogue Priest or Rogue Lock or Rogue Mage or some way that they can offensively purge the sacrifice, Blessing of Sacrifice is extremely good against Rogues. It'll break Sap, it'll break Blind, it'll break any CC coming your way, Gouge, anything like that. So if you put Blessing of Sacrifice on your teammate / cast target party 1, Blessing of Sacrifice, then if you have that up every 30 seconds, you're constantly sacking your party 2 or party 1, then you're very good to go. Sometimes against Rogues, I like to put up Seal of Vengeance. This puts a dot on them and doesn't allow them to re-stealth, but at the same time, I don't use it that much. I still prefer Consecration. It's superior in my eyes. And yeah, keep in mind that repping Rogues is really good. Let's say they just popped Evasion, just rep them, and then just let them sit there for 6 seconds in this rep, and then out of the rep, dump a Hodge into them, and then that's like 10 seconds, roughly 10 to 12 seconds of CC that they're going to sit, and now that evasion's completely useless because they can't dodge in a stun once the Hodge is on the target, and then during that first 6 seconds you just don't attack them. So in addition to that, you dump a judgment into them while they're repped, so it deals increased damage from Seal of Command. Also, sometimes Seal of Justice is good against a Rogue. If you know a Rogue is about to sprint away and kite or run or go and kick your healer or do something, you could put up a Seal of Justice on him, and this basically makes sprint completely useless to him. He cannot travel above 100% movement speed. Warriors aren't that hard to beat. There's nothing really special you can do against them that'll significantly improve gameplay other than switching to a one-hander and a shield. You can still do really good one-handed damage if you have a good one-hander, like a slow one-hander. You can still do some pretty good damage to them. In addition to that, Devotion Aura is really good against warriors. And then as well, your freedom management. So if you're kiting away from warrior and he has just a piercing howl on you, or there's like 5 seconds left on a hamstring, maybe wait until the next full hamstring until you cast freedom again, or something along those lines. Bop is also really good against warriors. It doesn't last very long in TBC, only lasts about 6 seconds. So keep in mind, warriors cannot spell reflect Hammer of Wrath. Even though it does holy damage, they cannot reflect this spell for some reason. Now, shamans are kind of hard to deal with in TBC. The best possible thing you can do to outplay a shaman, in a sense, is keep Seal of Justice on them. With shamans being, if they are either an enhancement shaman or a elemental shaman spec'd into the trait, or a resto shaman, they have a trait that basically reduces slows by half. So it reduces their duration by half. So if you put up a 12-second hamstring, that hamstring is only going to last 6 seconds on that target. You're refreshing hamstring quite frequently. So Seal of Justice is really good because this means they can't go in Ghost Wolf and gain a little bit of extra movement speed to try and get away from you. If they go into Ghost Wolf, they're going to be running the exact same speed as if they're out of Ghost Wolf. Another kind of tip against shamans: switch to a one-hander and a shield. If they have all 4 totems down and they're constantly spamming totems, just run around with a one-hander and shield and kill the totems. Don't use any abilities, don't waste any mana. You attack faster with a one-hander, so yeah, try to do that. Another thing with shaman, outside of their grounding totem, they don't have many defensives. If you can stop kicks with the repentance, if you could stop casts, with the repentance, or stop casts with the Hodge, or even an arcane torrent, you'll be fine against Shamans. If you have a Shaman as well and they're purging Earthshield, it's no worries against them. Mages are also pretty difficult to deal with. I recommend keeping Frost Resist Aura on at all times. In addition to that, save your freedom for the right moment. If you're sitting in a poly and you're right about to come out of that poly and you know he's going to cast a Frostbolt into a Nova, freedom right then. You know, you want to use freedoms to avoid shatters and not necessarily to close the gap in a sense. Now, if it's the start of a duel and I run up to him and the first thing he does is Nova me, I'm either probably going to dispel it because I don't have Winter's Chill on me or I don't have Frost Armor on me. You know, I'm only going to have that Nova on me, so it's not worth to use a freedom right at the start of a duel. But if I've got like 15 debuffs on me, like a Cone of Cold Slow, Frost Armor, Winter's Chill, I'm going to toss a freedom up to try to avoid a shatter effect, which is when you're in a Frost Nova and he casts a Frostbolt or an Ice Lance. If you can somehow force a Mage's Blink, you'll kill them within a Hodge. So if you can run up to them, or if you're having troubles closing the gap, try and get a Repentance off, you know, get some Dispels on yourself, dispel all the slows off, and then run up to them and try and do a Crusader strike into a Judgment and make them blink. That'll be very good because then you're able to follow that up with a Hodge after they blink. And then if they don't have block, they'll 100% die in that Hodge. Red has incredible burst capability. I wouldn't worry too much about getting Seal of the Crusader up on Mage. You just want to do damage. Druid is going to be the healer you're going to face the most in all Battlegrounds, arenas, world PvP, everywhere, because Druids are completely overpowered in TBC. My one tip for Druids: Seal of Justice, Seal of Justice, Seal of Justice. This renders Druids useless in terms of rep pally uptime because you are allowed to chase them in travel form, in bear form, in cat form with sprint, and they will not run faster than you. Especially if you have a freedom on yourself, you can't get rooted from nature's grasp, can't get slowed from anyone else unless they purge it, and then you have a Seal of Justice up on that Druid. Even if he's constantly shape-shifting, this will completely ruin his day. It is the best possible thing you can do with Druid. The first thing I do every time I see a Druid is get up a Seal of Justice and then continue my rotation from there. If I need to Repentance him out of form and then burst, I will, but I do not trade out Seal of Justice for Seal of the Crusader. No exceptions on Druid. Hunters are pretty straightforward, similar to Warrior, similar to Rogue. One hitter and a shield will help out a lot. Repentance if you can't close that gap, freedom, those concussive shots, and outside of that, you know, it's pretty straightforward. Remember that you can dispel all hunter poisons, so if they're running Scorpion Pet and they're spam vipering you, just spam cleanse yourself. Priests are pretty easy to kill, especially as a rep pally. If you're playing the best comp, the only comp you should be playing, especially if it's twos, is rep pally and a resto shaman or an elemental shaman or some kind of shaman. They have Windfury and they have Purge, and that's all you need to kill a priest. If you can get that inner fire off, or if you can get just one fresh power word shield off, you can kill them no problem. You don't really ever need to Seal of Justice against them. I would say keep up Seal of the Crusader. If they're dispelling Seal of the Crusader off of themselves, then just Seal of Blood in between rep and Hodges. Outside of that, definitely try to pop wings when they're in a stun, because they can offensively dispel your wings if they're good, so just watch out for that. But other than that, priests flop to rep pallies. You will destroy them. Now, pally probably has the easiest time against Warlocks out of all the classes. 3 reasons. 1, you've got Shadow Resist Aura. 2, you've got Cleanse, and 3, you've got Exorcism. So you kind of got 3 unique things that will destroy Warlocks in a sense. If as a rep pally, you should always keep Shadow Resist Aura on while fighting Warlocks. Every 15 seconds, you're tossing an Exorcism on his pet, or maybe even a Crusader Strife on off target on his pet, just trying to kill his pet passively. It's very easy to kill his pet passively as a rep pally. And in addition to that, in between your Crusader Strikes, just spam Cleanse. You can still auto attack while dispelling yourself. Keep that in mind. So just spam Cleanse's dots. You can dispel everything but Agony, everything but Tongues, any curse you cannot dispel. So Shadow Resist Aura, Exorcism, and try and kill his pet. Last thing I'll talk about are 3v3 comps that are phenomenal for Rep Paladin. Just about every comp that I'm going to list probably has Shaman in it. I think Shaman and Ret Pally are the best synergizing comp, off kind of hybrid specs in TBC that work so well with each other. Whether it's an Elemental Shaman and a Ret Pally, or a Ret Pally and a Resto Shaman, whatever the case is, or even an Enhancement Shaman paired with a Resto Druid. Whatever the case is, Shaman, you definitely want one on your team, so start making some friends now. In addition to that, if you have a Resto Shaman, I think you're paired well with an Arms Warrior, because you get Windfury for both you and the Warrior, so it's insane damage, plus Mortal Strike is really good. I also think Cupid is really good. If you want to play with a Hunter and a Priest instead of a Shaman, you can get that Fears off of traps, you can rep, and you've got amazing cross CC and pressure as Ret, Priest, Hunter. Also, if you want to kind of try an off spec, you could play Feral Ret with a Holy Pally, or you could play Feral Ret with a Disc Priest. Obviously, I would prefer a Shaman against that, but the Feral doesn't necessarily benefit from Windfury. Yeah, so my best advice for 3v3 comps with the Ret Pally is just find a Shaman, and then that third DPS slot kind of fills itself. Ret Rogue is sometimes really good, played at a really high level, but I wouldn't recommend Ret Rogue. I think Ret Warrior is better, Ret Hunters may be a little bit better, so yeah, give those a shot. I'll give a conclusion to what kind of makes a good Ret Pally stand out from everyone else in TBC. As I mentioned a lot throughout this guide, Seal of Blood if the target is not in a Repentance or a Hodge. Seal of Justice against Mages, Seal of Justice against Druids, against Shamans, against Rogues. Keeping up rank 1 Consecration against stealth targets. Consecration Aura on your team if your healer's getting trained by melee DPS. Putting freedoms on, being a hybrid class. So that means supporting your healer as much as you can, or if you're in 3s, supporting your other DPS teammate, tossing freedoms to them, tossing bobs, dispels to them, whatever the case may be. You need to take advantage of Ret Pally's toolkit other than just its incredible damage from Judgment, Crusader Strike, and its really good CC from rep and stuff. So keep in mind that you can dispel poisons, so if you're playing with a Disc Priest, always get his Viper Sting. As you guys recognize my guild name, Mop Classic. I'm going to be starting a Mop Classic movement. Mists of Pandaria is my favorite PvP expansion of all time, and so I cannot wait for that to come out in the 10 years or whatever the future is. But other than that, hopefully you guys enjoyed Retribution Paladin guide. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.